The aliens came in silver ships, smooth as glass and 10 times faster than anything humans had ever built. They called themselves the Varnari, tall, blue-skinned beings with no mouths and glowing eyes. They arrived with translators, drones, and smug smiles painted across their emotionless faces. They landed in Earth's orbit and gave a simple demand: surrender or be cleansed. Human leaders tried to negotiate. Earth had its share of wars, sure, but this wasn't like fighting each other. These beings had tech that bent gravity and sliced mountains in half. Earth's best jets couldn't get within 100 kilometers of a Varnari scout ship without being turned into ash. Still, humans refused to bow. So the Varnari laughed at Earth's missiles, at their tanks, their old-fashioned guns, their primitive satellites. They throw metal slugs, one Varnari commander mocked during a broadcast to their fleet. It's like challenging a plasma storm with a wooden stick. And then the skies turned red. No one knew exactly when it started. The Varnari sent a fleet to strike Earth's military centers, expecting the usual fast victory. They targeted NORAD, Earth's last global command system, hidden deep in the Rockies. As their plasma beams carved through the upper atmosphere, something strange happened. The beams broke, like glass hitting something it couldn't see. Then the Varnari ships shuddered, systems failing, signals jamming. Before they could retreat, hundreds of missiles flew up from underground silos, not guided by modern AI, but old systems, analog, unpredictable, the kind their scanners barely recognized. Dozens of ships fell, pierced by weapons that weren't supposed to be a threat. The Varnari didn't understand. Back on the fleet's command ship, Admiral Varek paced in confusion. These weapons are not behaving normally. His second-in-command, Sulari, tapped at glowing controls. Sir, they are using metal projectiles, yes, but they are wrapped in electromagnetic fields, shaped charges, and they're not connected to any major network. They don't even transmit. We can't hack what doesn't talk. Primitive, but deadly. It got worse. The Varnari tried to wipe out Earth's launch facilities next, but humans had prepared. They used decoys, false installations made to look real, and behind those fakes, in deep canyons and frozen wastelands, they'd hidden real launch sites, the kind of hiding that didn't require cloaking tech, just mud, ice, and patience. The humans didn't fight clean. They didn't move in predictable formations. They didn't follow rules, and worst of all, they didn't quit. A week into the invasion, the Varnari lost over 40 scout ships, 2 frigates, and 1 full dreadnought, all to primitive Earth weapons that had no business doing such damage. The skies above Earth were red with fire and metal. On the 3rd week, a Varnari transport ship was taken. By humans. They didn't just shoot it down, they boarded it, using old rockets, reinforced armor, and what looked like steel claws. The boarding team was made of only 6 soldiers, but they moved like ghosts, tearing through the Varnari defense drones. When the footage was retrieved later, it showed the lead human, face painted, armor dented, carving through the command deck with nothing but a flame-covered blade. Varek watched the footage in silence. That is not possible, they called. It a thermite sword, Sulari whispered. It burns hotter than any plasma we know. It cut through the control core. They boarded us, Varek repeated in disbelief. In the middle of space. They are mad, Sulari said. Mad and brilliant. It was supposed to be a conquest. But Earth had turned into a trap. Every valley, every cave, every weather pattern was used by the humans. They dropped cheap drones made of plastic and cardboard, flying just low enough to be invisible to sensors, but deadly enough to guide artillery strikes. They jammed Varnari signals not with high-tech fields, but with static noise, old microwave pulses, and broadcast. Towers built in the 1970s. They mixed AI with human instinct, making battle plans the Varnari couldn't predict. One commander, a woman named Reyes, led a strike using nothing but carrier pigeons to relay orders because she knew the Varnari were listening for encrypted digital traffic. Earth had gone dark and bloody. Varnari morale was cracking. And then came the worst moment of all. On day 45, a human nuke hit orbit. It wasn't guided. It wasn't sleek. It had no computer. It was launched by a half-destroyed submarine under the Arctic. The Varnari laughed when they saw it coming. A slow-moving relic from another age. Then it detonated. And it wasn't just a bomb. It was laced with hundreds of pounds of iron dust, fine enough to shred Varnari ship engines and blind sensors. The radiation was messy, uneven. The explosion was crude. But it worked. 7 ships were lost, not from the blast, but from system failure, blinded, crashing into each other. Falling from orbit, the humans had weaponized chaos. They fight like animals, Varek growled. No, Solari said softly. They fight like survivors. That's when the Varnari Council ordered full retreat. But it was too late. The humans had learned their ships. They had captured one, and were now reverse engineering its systems. A crude test weapon had already been fired from Earth, a stolen plasma beam that blew a hole through the moon. The message was clear. You laughed at Earth's weapons, but now the skies are red and Earth is laughing back. The Varnari tried to leave orbit quietly. No more broadcasts, no more shows of strength. But humans weren't done, not even close. The moment the retreat order was given, Earth's skies lit up again, this time not with fire, but with signals. Every satellite still standing, every hidden transmitter, every old Cold War radio tower came alive. The humans were hunting now. Admiral Varek stood on the bridge of the last operational dreadnought, staring at the endless black void outside. Somewhere out there, a group of Earth's warplanes, primitive, yes, but fast, were using terrain following. Radar to stay low, hidden beneath the clouds. They were coming. How are they tracking us? He demanded. Solari looked up from her console. They're not using logic. They're not using any of our algorithms. I think they're guessing. Guessing? She nodded. They study our patterns. They break them by hand. It's like they feel where we'll be. No one on the bridge said a word. Just then, alarms blared. The dreadnought shuddered. 2 Varnari escort ships exploded in the distance, hit by something. Big, impact detected, a voice reported. Unknown projectile, not plasma, kinetic. Where did it come from? Varek snapped. A tech answered, panicked. From the ocean. Sir, it was a railgun, submerged. Varek's skin rippled with dread. Earth had just fired a weapon from underwater, something long rumored, never confirmed. A giant railgun hidden beneath the Pacific, powered by geothermal energy. It launched a solid titanium rod the size of a car, at orbital targets. The Varnari had no defense against it. More ships fell, and still, Earth's voice remained silent. No threats, no demands, just the cold silence of a species that had been underestimated for the last time. In a remote Varnari outpost on Mars, the planetary administrator, Velkan, was watching the news feed from Earth. He had once laughed at the primitive humans. He had called their weapons toys and their spirit fragile. Now he watched their cities rebuilding, not falling. He saw new facilities going up, fast, too fast. He saw humans dragging broken alien ships into hidden valleys, burying them, studying them. He turned to his aide. What are they doing? The aide swallowed. Preparing for war. With us. No. With everyone. The humans had figured it out. They weren't just surviving, they were adapting. Fast. In one of the mountain labs on Earth, a woman named Dr. Kavita Rao stood over the remains of a Varnari plasma core. The scientist had no alien translators, no manuals. But they had something more dangerous: curiosity, caffeine, and the refusal to give up. Her team was already building a prototype. Not perfect, but usable, powered by scavenged cores, cooled by Earth's old reactor tech. They called it the Dragon Tooth. It could melt a Varnari cruiser in one shot. Meanwhile, in the forests of Siberia, human commandos ran live drills using stolen Varnari exosuits. They didn't wear them the way Varnari did. They didn't walk, they charged. They used gravity assist not for grace, but for raw power, smashing through trees, walls, anything in their path. The suits were meant for elegance. The humans made them brutal. It terrified the Varnari scientists watching the footage. The humans weren't just learning the tech, they were breaking it, modifying it, making it theirs. One analyst whispered the truth that many were too afraid to say out loud. They're not fighting with sticks anymore. That's when the Council ordered a blackout on all Earth information. No transmissions in, no footage out. Earth was to be avoided, quarantined, but the damage was done. The story spread. The primitives who threw metal slugs had turned back an empire, and not just turned them back, hunted them. In deep space, other species listened. The Drakh, insectoid, and warlike had considered Earth next on their list, but now they hesitated. The humans had no fancy ships, no psychic tech, no genetic superiority. What they had was something worse: unpredictability. One Varnari scout had once described humans as fire with teeth. That line began appearing across the galaxy. In orbit, the last Varnari dreadnought tried to cloak itself for one final escape, but before it could vanish, its hull was hit. Not by a missile, but by a jet. An F-22 Raptor, rebuilt from scrap, had been loaded with metal spikes, flown manually by a pilot with a broken arm and one good eye. He rammed the ship. The Raptor exploded. The dreadnought's cloak failed. Earth's new dragon-tooth cannon locked on and fired. The sky turned red again. The dreadnought fell, burning. Across the ocean horizon, Admiral Varek's final thought wasn't of defeat. It was of regret. "We should have spoken," he whispered, as fire tore through the ship. On Earth, the humans didn't cheer. They didn't throw parades. They just kept working, fixing, learning, sharpening, because they knew more would come, and next time, they wouldn't be fighting with old guns or scavenged tech. Next time, they'd be ready. The skies were red, but not from blood, from warning. A cold wind howled over the broken cityscape once known as Denver. It had been hit hard during the early days of the invasion. Varnari plasma strikes had turned the skyline into jagged metal and blackened steel. But now, strange lights flickered across the wreckage. Drones buzzed low, scanning. Human engineers moved quickly among collapsed buildings, rebuilding, not homes, but defenses. In the shadows of the ruins, a boy watched the sky. His name was Malik. He was 12. He had lost everything in the first week: his parents, his dog, his home. But he hadn't cried since. Now he ran messages between two underground bunkers on foot. No radio, no tracker. He was invisible to Varnari. "Tech, another one fell last night," he whispered to a tired soldier standing guard. "Over the Pacific. They say we hit it with a microwave tower." The soldier nodded, eyes scanning the clouds. "Good. We'll take them all, one by one." The stories were spreading fast now. In Africa, entire tribes had joined the fight. Not with high-tech weapons, but with tactics honed over centuries. The Varnari underestimated them, thinking them disorganized, but the terrain favored the humans. Ambushes came from rivers, cliffs, even inside collapsed alien transports. In South America, jungle warfare returned. Indigenous warriors who once hunted with silence now used Varnari cloaks scavenged from downed scouts. They weren't scientists or generals, but they adapted fast. Their arrows were tipped with carbon shards pulled from alien alloys. sharp, enough to punch through armor if aimed right. In Eastern Europe, the old bunkers from past wars reopened. Diesel-powered tanks rolled again, loud, ugly, effective, and in Australia, a rogue unit of outback survivalists, never officially part of any military, managed to hijack an orbital Varnari satellite using only a 1980s computer, solar batteries, and a wild guess. They used the satellite to blind an entire Varnari fleet trying to regroup near Jupiter. Earth was no longer a battlefield. It had become a nightmare for the invaders. On one of the last Varnari carriers still hiding near the moon, Commander Telak sat trembling. He had just read the latest report. 22 ships gone, 3 planet-side bases destroyed, another lost just this morning, ambushed in the mountains by humans on horseback. Why didn't we see this coming? He whispered. Beside him, one of the research officers offered a theory. Because we thought strength came from advancement, from order, from control. But humans, they don't fight to dominate. They fight because they've lost everything. Telak shook his head. They use broken tools, ancient machines. The researcher replied quietly, they don't need perfect tools. They just need a chance. Back on Earth, deep in a reinforced cavern beneath Alaska, a meeting was underway. Not a government summit, not a formal command center. Just 7 people, scientists, soldiers, and 1 hacker, gathered around a metal table. Their goal, figure out what to do with the tech they'd captured. We've got 3 Varnari cores, said Reyes, the battle-scarred field commander who had once used pigeons to lead a strike. 1 is cracked, 2 are salvageable. We can power something small, said Dr. Kavita Rao. Maybe a vehicle or a rail system. No, Reyes replied. Not yet. I want to use it for a message. The hacker, a man known only as Echo, leaned forward. You want to broadcast with Varnari tech? Yes, she said, but not to them, to everyone else. The room went silent. Earth isn't just defending itself anymore, she said. We've proven something. We've beaten the Empire. We broke them. Now it's time to send a signal, not of surrender, of readiness. Echo nodded slowly. You want to tell the galaxy we're not prey? I want to tell them, Reyes said, that we're hunting now. The signal was launched. 3 days later, short, cold, clear. This is Earth. We stood against the Varnari. We remain. To those who seek conquest, know this. We are not weak. We are not broken. We are waiting. It echoed across space. No name, no threat, just truth. And somewhere, far beyond even the Varnari territory, others heard it. Some curious, some amused, and some afraid. In a hidden chamber on the Varnari homeworld, High Chancellor Relek stood before the full council. They had just received news of Earth's broadcast. The humans had not only fought back, they were thriving. They were building new weapons. Worse, they were spreading. Scouts reported human signals bouncing across old relay stations the Varnari had long abandoned. Old stations, now controlled by Earth. They've turned our invasion into an opportunity, Relek growled. They're stealing everything. They are not just a threat to us now, they are a threat to order. One of the counselors leaned forward. Then what shall we do? Relek stared at the hologram of Earth, now surrounded by red markers. Fallen, ships, lost fleets, failed operations. We warned them, we underestimated them. He paused. Now we end them. No scouts, no diplomacy. Send the Sun Cutters. There was silence in the room. The Sun Cutters were ancient ships, massive, forbidden, by treaty, powered by stars, weapons of extinction. The counselor blinked slowly. That will violate every code we swore to follow. Relek's voice was cold. They threw metal slugs at us. and burned our fleet. His eyes glowed dark. They deserve fire. Far away, on a high peak in the Himalayas, a small group of monks watched the stars with old telescopes. One of them, a young novice, pointed toward a strange light moving faster than anything he had ever seen. "Is that a star falling?" he asked. The elder beside him smiled sadly. "No, child. That's something coming. The human war wasn't over. It was only just beginning." In a field of blackened ash outside what had once been Shanghai, Commander Reyes crouched beside a scorched crater. The ground still hissed from the last Varnari blast, but she didn't flinch. Her armor was cracked, her face smeared with dust and dried blood. But her eyes, sharp and clear, never looked away from the sky. A technician approached her, panting. "Ma'am, long-range scans picked up something new." Reyes rose slowly. "Let me guess. Not another cruiser?" The tech swallowed hard. "No, ma'am, it's big. 40 clicks wide, emitting solar flares. We think it's one of the weapons they call sun cutters." Reyes didn't react right away. She stared into the smoke, as if searching for something only she could see. "We pushed them too far," the tech muttered. "They're sending gods now." "No," she said. "They're sending cowards in big ships." But even she knew this was different. The Sun Cutter was not a warship. It was a planet killer, its weapon, a solar lance that could boil the oceans and split a world in half. The Varnari had used it once, long ago, on a rebellious mining moon. The system hadn't recovered in centuries, and now it was headed toward Earth. The skies were going to turn red again, only this time, Earth might not survive. In the bowels of NORAD, deep beneath layers of steel and frozen rock, the Emergency War Council met in silence. Generals, scientists, engineers, no politicians, anymore. Earth had no time for speeches. Dr. Kavita Rao stood at the head of the room. She was thinner now, older, but her voice hadn't lost its edge. "The Sun Cutter arrives in 4 days. We can't shoot it down. We can't outrun it. Our best chance is to disable its systems before it fires." General Hadley leaned forward. "How?" She pulled up a hologram, schematics drawn from captured Varnari archives. "The ship relies on stellar siphons. It stores raw plasma from a nearby sun in its central core. If we can damage the collectors or overload the core before it charges, then it dies before it can fire," Hadley finished. "But we'll need to get someone on board," Rao said. "Inside. Fast." No one volunteered because it was suicide. The Sun Cutter was more fortress than ship. Dozens of decks, thousands of automated drones, AI defenses. A mission like that would be a one-way trip. Unless there's one person who could make it, said a voice from the back. The room turned. It was Echo, the hacker. He stepped forward holding a black case. "I've been working on something. A ghost rig, cloaking, scrambling, silent movement. It's made from hybrid Varnari systems, stuff we salvaged. I call it the Wraith." He opened the case. Inside was a suit, sleek, dark, humming faintly. Not quite alien, not quite human. "A pilot wearing this can get inside," he said. "They might even make it out." Reyes stepped forward. "I'll do it." General Hadley frowned. "Commander, with all due respect, I'm not asking," Reyes said. "I've led every major strike. I've seen their systems. I've worn their stolen tech, and I've got nothing left to lose." She looked around. "I'll go." 3 days later, she stood on the launch pad atop the Andes Mountains, the Wraith, suit gleaming under the twilight. The world had gone quiet. Cities were dark. Satellites were watching the sky. Everyone was waiting. The Sun Cutter was visible now, a burning eye in the heavens, closer than the moon, its core pulsing like a star. "This is for Earth," Reyes whispered, and she launched. The Wraith suit was fast. Too fast for Varnari sensors. It bent light, distorted gravity. She zipped past orbital debris, rode the magnetic slipstream around the Earth, and approached the Suncutter's hull in minutes. She latched on with magnetic claws and began to cut through. Inside, the ship was vast, silent, cold, but alive. Every hallway was guarded by AI drones, floating spheres with razor limbs and scanning beams. But the Wraith confused them. Reyes moved like a shadow, slipping through cracks, crawling through vents, mapping the maze. She found the central core. It was massive, glowing. The heart of the Suncutter. One wrong move, and it would ignite. She set the charges. 5 EMP pulse, packs, and 1 final spike bomb. Enough to overload the siphons and melt the core from the inside out. Then she turned to leave. But she wasn't alone. A Varnari commander stood at the exit, blade drawn, tall, armored, faster than anything she'd faced before. He didn't speak. He lunged. Reyes dodged, barely, the Wraith suit reacting faster than she could think. They crashed into each other. Sparks flew. Her arm snapped. His blade tore through her side. They fought in silence. 2 warriors, 1 mission. Reyes didn't try to win. She just needed time. She triggered the final charge with her last good hand, slamming it into the core's exposed frame. The Varnari's eyes widened. "You don't get to burn my world," she hissed, and she pushed him back into the energy flow. The overload began instantly. The core screamed. Reyes barely made it to the outer hull before the blast threw her clear into the blackness of space. The Suncutter went nova. It didn't just break, it exploded from the inside out. A silent firestorm of burning plasma and shattered metal, raining across the stars. On Earth, people watched the red streaks in the sky. Some thought it was a meteor shower, others knew better. Dr. Rao received a signal, a weak ping from a beacon drifting in orbit. She smiled. She made it. The skies turned red one last time. But this time it was not a warning, it was victory. The shock wave from the Suncutter's destruction rippled through space, sending fragments of the giant weapons streaking like fiery comets across the heavens. On Earth, the aftermath was both a celebration and a solemn reminder. Thousands had given their lives for that moment, especially Commander Reyes. Weeks passed with no word from her. The world waited, hoping. Then the impossible happened. A transmission came through, a shaky, static-filled message from orbit. "It's me," Reyes's voice whispered. "I'm alive." Her image flickered onto screens worldwide. Face, bruised but smiling faintly. "The Wraith saved me. I'm on a rescue pod heading back to Earth. We've won this battle, but the war is far from over." Her words stirred a fire in humanity's soul. The Varnari were beaten back from their greatest weapon. Earth had survived an extinction-level strike. And more than that, humans had proven that even in the darkest hours, they fought harder, smarter, and with a will that no alien tech could match. But the victory came with a warning. The Varnari were regrouping. A new fleet was gathering beyond, the Orion sector, faster, deadlier, and ready to finish what had been started. Earth had no choice but to prepare. In the months that followed, humanity's darkest hours fueled its greatest innovations. Dr. Kavita Rao led a coalition of engineers and scientists working day and night to reverse engineer captured Varnari tech. They fused alien power cores with Earth's rugged machines. New ships rose, sleek fighters with hybrid weapons, tanks that could leap across mountains, drones that thought like humans. But more than technology, humans evolved their tactics. They learned to fight not just with weapons, but with deception and unpredictability. They struck where the enemy thought they were weakest, used weather as a weapon, and harnessed every scrap of Earth's wildness to their advantage. Meanwhile, Varnari forces were no longer met with open battlefields. They found deserts turned into minefields, jungles rigged with traps, cities empty but wired to explode. One Varnari captain whispered during a battle, "They do not fight us. They fight around us." And yet, despite the devastation, humans held their ground. On a frozen ridge in Antarctica, a new symbol was forged: the International Fleet Command. Pilots from every nation, united. They trained in zero-gravity simulators, shared intelligence, and prepared for the inevitable final clash. Among them was Malik, the boy who had once run messages through ruined Denver. Now a pilot hardened by war, carrying the memory of lost friends. During a briefing, Malik's commander spoke softly. "This is not just a fight for Earth. It's a fight for humanity." The day the new Varnari fleet arrived was gray and silent. Ships darkened the stars, their hulls bristling with weapons unknown. But Earth's skies did not fear them. From the hidden bases, the international fleet launched. Missiles screamed. Plasma beams cut the darkness. But the humans fought differently. This time, they didn't try to match technology. They outthought it. Malik piloted his fighter through a deadly dance of enemy fire. Using a combination of human intuition and AI-assisted targeting, he led a strike that destroyed the Varnari flagship's engine core. The flagship burned and fell, dragging others with it. A voice came through the comms, calm, clear, determined. "This is Malik, for Earth, for humanity." The battle raged, but the tide had turned. When the final Varnari ship fled, battered and broken, Earth's people cheered. They had done more than survive. They had become legends. Far beyond the stars, whispers spread. They are fire with teeth. They are not to be underestimated. They are humanity. And on Earth, beneath the endless sky, people looked up. Not with fear, but with pride. Because the primitive weapons that once mocked them had carved a future written in red. A future where humanity would never bow. A future where the skies belonged to them. The years after the Great Battle were hard. Earth's cities slowly rebuilt. Fields once scorched by war grew green again. Children were born into a world still wary, still watching the stars. But humanity had changed forever. The war had awakened. Something deep inside them, a fierce pride and a hunger for more than survival. The once primitive weapons were now legends. The stories of flamethrowers that burned through alien armor, railguns that punched through shields, and the Wraith suit that took down a planet killer spread across nations like wildfire. But the humans didn't rest. In hidden laboratories and quiet workshops, the new generation of engineers and dreamers built machines no one thought possible. They merged Earth's stubborn resilience with alien tech, creating ships that could disappear into shadows, weapons that bent light itself, and armor that healed with nanobots. In the skies above Earth's moon, a fleet stood watch, not just to defend, but to explore. Because humans had learned something else during the war. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but also full of opportunities. Among the explorers was Malik, now a veteran pilot with scars and medals. He flew a sleek ship named Red Horizon, symbolizing the blood and fire of Earth's fight and the promise of a new dawn. One day, while charting a new star system, Malik received a mysterious transmission. It was from an unknown species, calm, cautious, and curious. They had heard Earth's story. They wanted to meet. Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. First contact. For humanity, it was a chance to step out of the shadows, to be more than survivors, to be leaders. Dr. Kavita Rao, now heading Earth's new Interstellar Science Council, spoke at a global assembly. "We fought because we had no choice, but now we stand because we chose to. We choose peace. We choose strength. We choose the future." The new species arrived not with weapons, but with gifts, knowledge, stories, and a warning. The galaxy was changing. Other empires were rising, and Earth was now a beacon, a symbol of what grit and heart could achieve. But the past still lingered. Varnari were not gone. Their empire fractured, yes, but their hatred burned on. They sent spies, saboteurs, and whispers of rebellion. The skies were no longer just red from war. They were red with warning. One night, Malik stood on Earth's tallest tower, watching the stars. Behind him, a new generation of fighters trained, ready for whatever came. He smiled, because humanity had learned the greatest lesson. The universe never stops testing you, but neither does the human spirit. And as long as that spirit burned bright, no enemy, no matter how advanced, could ever break them. The skies belonged to humanity now, and they would fight to keep them. The war had shifted. The Zalnari were no longer conquerors. They were hunted. Cole stood on the bridge of the Vakar's Claw, watching the last remnants of the enemy fleet retreat into the dark folds of space. Ships flickered like dying stars, crippled and leaderless. The once proud empire was broken. Ilara joined him, her eyes calm but fierce. "We've won this battle," she said, "but the fight isn't over. They'll be back." Cole nodded. "They always come back." Suddenly, the ship trembled. The sensors picked up a signal, low frequency, massive energy buildup. "A jump drive charging," Ilara said. "Too close. To ignore." On the main screen, a new ship appeared, bigger than any before. A living nightmare. The Eclipse Serpent. It blotted out stars with its size, a black mass covered in pulsing veins of red light. It moved with unnatural speed, fueled by technology stolen and corrupted from the humans themselves. Cole's lips tightened. "This is Malvrix's last card." The Eclipse Serpent fired a beam of pure energy. It slammed into the Vakar's Claw, shaking the ship to its core. Alarms blared. The creatures, the Ark soldiers, stood ready. Ilara gripped her weapon. "We hold!" Cole accessed the ship's core. Virus code flared, awakening every system. He reached into the depths of the ship's AI and pushed harder than ever before. The ship responded, shifting shape. Armor reconfigured, weapons recalibrated. A pulse burst from the Vakar's Claw, meeting the Eclipse Serpent's beam. The two forces clashed, light against darkness, will against power. The battle stretched through space like a thunderstorm, fierce and unstoppable. Inside the chaos, Cole felt something new, a surge of strength, not just from machines, but from humanity itself. From every soldier who refused to surrender, from every mind that fought in silence, from every heart that beat stubbornly against the night. The Eclipse Serpent faltered, its weapons flickered, its engines slowed. Ilara fired the final shot, a precise strike that pierced the beast's core. The great ship exploded into 1,000 fragments, scattering across the void. Silence. Peace. The stars twinkled again. Cole looked at Ilara. "We did it." She smiled. "But this is only the beginning." He nodded. The humans had survived. They had fought, and they had changed everything. Because in the vast darkness of space where empires rise and fall, one truth remained clear. Humanity never quits, and when the universe laughed at their weakness, they laughed last. The war was over, but the legend of humanity had only just begun.